Live from the Sound System Studios, Dallas, Texas.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I don't care if I never get.
Holy cow!
Baby water! Baby water!
What a week it was in sports. Certainly have plenty to get to today. Countdown to free agency, just over 24 hours away. The 3-day negotiating period began Saturday. NFL news all over the place. Plenty of players to get to. NBA news. Russell Westbrook has been going off. He has been a beast mode. We'll get into all his triple-doubleness that he's been getting into lately. NCAA basketball. Wow, what a weekend it was. 6 games went down to the final shot, final seconds this last Saturday, and 5 of the games had to do with top-ranked teams. Also, you had another worry in Dallas, and a few stories of the week yet again, and just a funny fight you would not believe happened in a girls' basketball game. First, though, welcome to On Deck. Thanks for listening. Josh Smith, I am your host, and I certainly just can't even believe the first thing that I kept calling for and finally get to talk about yet once again. Well, hopefully this will be the last time. I'm sure you're getting tired of me talking about this, but Peyton Manning finally decides to take a pay cut. Oh my gosh, I finally called it. I could say I called it, which I knew this was going to happen. Of course, it's been in the works for over a week now. But right around what I called 5 to 10, I was hoping for, obviously I was saying 5 to 10 because I knew it was only going to be about 5, but hoping for 10 because they had more to work with, but they did work out about $4 to $5 million, reduced his salary from around $19 million to around $15 million. So and then of course he passed his physical last week, so everything's pretty much now it's gone through. He can though earn back that $4 million if he gets to the Super Bowl. He'll get $2 million. If he wins the Super Bowl next year, if the Broncos do, he'll get the other 2, thus giving him $19 million. And the $4 million going to things that they needed to take care of. Those players they say signed last year, well, they needed to sign their, they needed to cover those bonuses. Every player gets, these yearly bonuses. Not only do you have your yearly contract, but you also have, bonuses each year as soon as the new year begins, which is March 10th. So those are actually going to go out to Aqib Talib and TJ Ward, of course, pursuing other offensive linemen and tight end help. Hint, Julius Thomas may not be coming back. Sad to hear that I'm now hearing this because I thought it was going to be tag one, sign the other, and I guess they couldn't work out a deal. But anyway, I'll get into Julius in a minute. But let me tell you about this. Why this whole, and I'm tired of this. The ESPN analyst, over and over, all of them, well, some of them saying, okay, he should, but then most of them, well, I don't know why he should. He's a top-tier quarterback. It's not like he's decreased his value, this, that, and the other. None of them, though. None of them argue, how much he's made in his career. He's made over $230 million on the field. You count in the $10 million he's averaged off the field in endorsements, which he's averaged since he's gotten in the league over $10 million. This is going to be his 18th year. Number 18 is coming back for his 18th year. So that's 17 years he's got under his belt. That's $170 more million. 230 plus 170. $400 million. He's made $400 million in his career, and they're arguing that he still needs to make $19-20 million. I don't care that he's still top tier. I understand that. But if you want to win a Super Bowl, that's the ultimate goal, especially for the Broncos, obviously, and it certainly is for him, I would imagine, risking his own body now at this point in his career. Why aren't you playing for free? John Elway did, and I'll get to that in just a moment. John Elway literally did in his last year. Pretty much played for free. And I can find an article, and you can still look it up yourself. But the point being, I'm tired of these ESPN analysts saying, oh, well, this, that. No. Why aren't any of them arguing how much he's made and then arguing the fact that I guess none of them remember, or they all forgot or whatever, about John Elway playing for free. Literally playing for less than $500,000 in his final year. Restructured it twice. You can still find the article. It's like under the, I think it's one of the Philadelphia news link. Anyway, I don't know if it's the Inquirer, whatever up there in Philadelphia, but it's like Philly News. That's what the link I remember saying. I wish I would have wrote the link down, but it's still, I have it all from that link because I remember that. He restructured it twice that year, going from 4.05, so $4,500,000. That's what he restructured the first time, down to $4 million, whatever he was making before that. Probably what the top tier at the time was, $10 million, whatever at the time, to $300,000. Went from $4 million the second time around to $300,000, which equivalent today is $435,000. So even today, on today's terms, that would be less than $500,000. So John Elway played in his final year $300,000. $300,000 is what John Elway played for in his last year. Same thing. What he restructured, that 3.75 went to salary cap, restructuring players, and 1.2 of it went to signing all their players actually that year in the draft. The draft hadn't even come yet. So 1.2 of it went to sign all of their draft players they went on to draft that year. You get that? Elway played for free. None of them mentioned that. ESPN analysts. Mark Schlereth, how do you not remember that? I don't hear you. I'm not watching it too much, but I would hope you would mention that at least, please. Mark Schlereth, at Mark Schlereth, ESPN. Any of these guys on ESPN, I know you'll probably never get this, but I'm going to start calling you out, following you on Twitter and saying that. Like, say, hello, all of you guys, Jerome Bettis, Rodney Hare, I don't know, all these guys, whoever are on there, all the coaches, Herm Edwards. Hello, do you not remember that John Elway played for free? And do y'all not know also that, let's do some math, especially if you could do math in your head. Manning's made $230 million in his career, plus off the field stuff is $150 to $170 really by all averages. So about $400 million he's made in his life. I think you could play for $5 million, $2 million, $1 million next year. Do what the Facebook and all these Googles and executive, point being the CEOs of these companies that have the 1 cent salary. I know they make tons of, you get my point, but still. He should play for a penny next year. Give the Broncos all $19 million if he wants to win a Super Bowl. Done with that. There's my spiel. I know you get my point. Look up the article if you want to see how Elway played for free. Julius Thomas may not be coming back. Big decision for the Broncos offense. I know it's because Kubiak, the offense they have coming in, he's not that great of a blocker. I know he can maybe work on it, but maybe he just doesn't want to. And maybe he's just really never going to be that good. And I think that was the thing with Kubiak coming in, because all signs before he ever was signed that it was a done deal. It was going to be a tag and a sign between him and Demaryius Thomas, the two Thomases. And boy, if you let him go, that's a huge red zone threat you're taking away. Use him in the slot next year. That way you don't have to get, when you do go 3 wide, I don't know why he was literally, and I looked this up, he was like 30 to 30-something% of his, when he's on the field, 30-something% of it he was in the slot 2 years ago in 2013. Last year, it was only 15 to 16%. It was pretty much cut in half. Had a huge first half, nagging injuries, and he's had injuries his whole career. He's really been nagged with injuries. So maybe it's another thing. He's seen that he's really hardly on the field. I mean, yes, when he's on the field, he's one of the most productive, highly productive tight ends in the league, but passing tight ends. And that's the thing. Maybe they're saying, hey, go on, do your thing. Well, I'm going to hate it. I know it'll still look great next year if they don't have him, but I'm really certainly going to miss him being what he's done for Denver and what a threat he has been, and really just a key threat for Peyton Manning. I mean, you talk about Demaryius on the outside and then Julius in the middle. You're having to cover those two guys. Very hard to do. And especially Julius going out for any route. That's just tough for any linebacker, safety, corner. What are you going to put on them? New teams could be Raiders, even as far as I forgot when this was. I think it was late January. I know it was February for sure, but it may have been late January this was announced. Something about going to the Raiders, but then the Seahawks have interest. So look for him to stay on the West Coast. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did stay in conference. They do that a lot, stay in conference. Another big name now, of course, Ndamukong Suh. Everyone, is he going to stay? Obviously, now Detroit wasn't going to tag him. Miami, boom, lands him right away. Of course, can't land this until officially tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is when free agency officially begins. So none of these things can become official until 4 p.m. Eastern. All these deals that have been made that I'm about to talk about until tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central, so on and so forth. How about the $6 million, or I should say 6 year, $6 million signing bonus probably every year, but anyway, 6 year, $114 million, $60 million guaranteed. Goes to the Dolphins, going down south. I know my buddy Jaron McTee is happy about that one. McTee getting some woo pig suey, as I told him, down in the South Beach. But yeah, 6 year, $114 million. I think that's a great move for Miami. They need something to solidify that defense. Now, it's not going to give them much cap room to work elsewhere. They're going to have to let Mike Wallace go, most likely, who they signed a couple of years ago to a big deal, so they can free up some more cap room, maybe sign a lowered tier wide receiver to fit that offense that can do just as much damage as Mike Wallace honestly has done, but for a lot less value. But certainly freed up some, I shouldn't say freed up, they don't have much cap room freed up left now after spending a ton of money on Sue, and actually makes him the highest played NFL player on the defensive side. Watt made that actually a couple years ago when he signed his new contract. Watt was at J.J. Watt, $17 million a year. And when this becomes official, Sue will be averaging about $19 million a year overall over those 6 years. $60 million over the first 3, and I don't know exactly how it's all spread out, but wow. Heck of a deal for now there I can't even say his name. Ndamukong Suh. Whew. As I keep wanting to say, Woo Pig Suey, Miami got a big player in the middle of their defense. A lot of teams are looking to maybe have him in the middle, because that just stops up your whole defensive line. I mean, you just put players around him, and your front seven's really, at least your front 4. But now, like I said, the Miami offense won't have much money. That's what me and McT were talking about. Won't have much money to really spend elsewhere, but they can probably spend it wisely. And that's one thing. They want someone to get after Tom Brady. They want someone to get Tom Brady. Tom Brady's getting older and older. They want someone, and I'm sure with Sue, he plays dirty. They might want someone to hurt him. I mean, that's what they're probably looking for. Go get Brady. Hurt him. Break his leg. End him. On deck, though, LaShawn McCoy. How about this trade? You see this last week? Goes to the Bills from Philadelphia. The Bills let him, and Philly lets him go. I mean, just let him go. Maybe seeing him get into his mid to upper years. I mean, running backs don't last long. Although coming off a pretty good year, they let him go. Bills get him, though, for Kiko Alonso. That's a linebacker. I don't know if you've heard of old Kiko, so... And then they get an extension onto this, LaShawn McCoy does. It's $40 million overall. It's a $40 million deal. It's 5 years, $40 million, 26.5 guaranteed, $16 million next year. He'll make $16 million next year, LaShawn McCoy will. Ridiculous numbers. And actually, right after this was reported about this, he was actually wasn't pleased with the deal. I looked into this because I saw something, and yeah, he tweeted something. I think he deleted it. I couldn't find it anyway, but said he wasn't happy with the deal. I'm sure he's a little happier now. He's going to be making $16 million next year. It's a lot of money. Now it looks like the Bills won't be bringing back C.J. Spiller. Didn't spend too much on him. It's a big deal with a short amount of time. Obviously, $16 million though next year. They had a lot to spend. I think the Bills had one of the teams with a lot to. They were one of the teams with a lot to spend, and that was one of the ways they did spend it. They are going to have to look about bringing back a running back. Like I said, C.J. Spiller not coming back now. Obviously, he'll be in the free agent market come tomorrow, and we'll see who picks him up. So, I just don't. I think they need a quarterback. Maybe they're obviously going to go quarterback in the draft. Maybe they think they. I just don't think what they have with the quarterback position right now is even close to being solidified. I think they got great wide receivers, or good wide receivers, good offensive line, and a pretty good defense. They always have a good defense, and especially with getting Rex Ryan, we'll see what he does in the draft. I'd imagine he'd want to go defense. But anyway, LaShawn McCoy, though, with the Bills. We'll see how that goes next year. $16 million, I know he's going to be happy with that, but at first he wasn't happy. So, but Brandon Marshall, did you see this other trade? Hear about this one. He's going to the Jets, Rex Ryan's former team. And what's crazy is they just been stocking up on these wide receivers the last couple of years. If you remember last year, before the year started in free agency, they got Decker from the Broncos. Remember, Broncos let Decker go. He goes to the Jets. Well, then Percy Harvin's also let go by Seattle late last year. Well, who picks him up? The Jets do. They're like, well, I don't know why. You would think a team that was going to make a run to the playoffs, almost said that. But anyway, you figure a team that was going to make a playoff run was going to get Percy Harvin. They don't. I'm sure that's who's going to pick up Percy Harvin now. But check this. They got Decker. Okay, the Jets are going to have Decker and Marshall. Two big wide receivers. Well, that's why the Bears let Marshall go. He was an older version of Alshon Jeffrey. They had two big guys. Who wouldn't want Alshon Jeffrey, honestly, and Brandon Marshall on the outside? You got two guys that are 6'5", 200 pounds, and go up, get a ball. Well, they let Brandon Marshall. They don't want two big guys. They want a big guy, and they want a guy to complement him, and kind of a slot guy, almost like a Percy Harvin. They may pick up Percy Harvin, so look for the Bears to pick up Percy Harvin in the free agency. If and when, which will come tomorrow, when Percy Harvin is let go by the Jets. Because they're going to have to free up room if this Brandon Marshall deal is going to get done, or if they're going to sign him to a contract. But here's what it's all for: a 5th-round pick. Bears like, we're done with you, Brandon Marshall. Just like it seems like a lot of receivers. I know, of course, I remember Randy Moss, but other people. Hey, we're done with you. Here's a 5th-round pick. Here you go, Patriots, for Brandon. Randy Moss a few years ago from Oakland. Now the same with this. Hey, New York Jets. Here's a 5th-round pick for one of the best wide receivers still in today's game. I'd think a 2nd-round pick at somewhere around there, maybe 3rd. It is what it is, as they say. But like I said, they're going to go Decker and Marshall on the outside. They're obviously going to have to let someone go to free up some cap room, which is certainly going to have to be Harvin. Although Decker, they're worth about the same. Let Harvin go is what the word on the street is. So, although they could be stacked at wide receiver for Geno Smith. And speaking of that, I'll get to a quarterback that's thinking about maybe going to battle with Geno Smith for that starting spot here in just a little bit. Another big wide receiver that was looking to be on the market, looking for a new team maybe, but at the last minute, the Green Bay Packers and Randall Cobb did get a deal done. 4 years, $40 million. And here's a stat I found. I could not believe this about Randall Cobb. Caught 75.2% of his targets since he's entered the league in 2011. That's highest in the league. He's caught 75, and you figure there'd be a number higher, maybe out there 80, 85, but 75.2 is the highest in the league since 2011. And a guy I just talked about is in 2nd place, Percy Harvin, which you wouldn't imagine. And then 2 guys you maybe would imagine, Edelman and then Welker, who are just kind of funny. You'd think they're 3 and 4. How funny that they're 3 and 4 together. But, yeah, Randall Cobb's number 1 in the league, caught most of his targets since 2011. But be staying with the Pack. I know the Pack are happy about that. They were probably, which this was also, they were going to maybe let him go, mainly because they got Devontae Adams in the draft last year. Good size, fast wide receiver, and they were thinking maybe, well, if he really blows up this year, we'll keep him and let Cobb go so we can have more money to do other stuff. Cobb, the season he had to complement Jordy Nelson on the other side, and now you have Devontae Adams, and you can mismatch, throw him in there any way you want, 1, 2, and 3, so whoever you want in the slot. Any of those guys can play the slot. Any of those guys can play the outside. With Aaron Rodgers and that offense that they're rolling with, they saw what they were doing late last year. I think they're like, I think we want to keep this offense rolling. Marshawn Lynch coming back. That's almost you could see an NFC Championship game again point being, Marshawn Lynch back with Seattle, and that's huge for them. Now they don't have to go find another running back or draft one, which a lot of people had maybe Melvin Gordon going to Seattle if they didn't get Marshawn Lynch back, and that's huge for Seattle. Huge for Seattle. Now, I'll go back to some of these other guys in just a second. That's huge for Seattle. And a big contract. He was only going to make $7 million next year, and that was another thing why he was like, man, come on. I'm worth a lot more. But plus, he's just kind of one of those players that would retire young, but he's going to make some money next year. $12 million he's slated for, and it actually includes an additional $24 million for the 2016 and 17 seasons if he wants to come back. So pretty much an additional $12 million apiece for both of those seasons if he wants to come back those 2 years. But he's definitely coming back next year, at least for another year. Although he did sign a 2-year extension, he's certainly coming back for next year, 2015. And that's huge for them. They don't have to get anybody. You can just see, I can see Seattle, maybe just because of losing their coordinators, they are going to lose some other players through free agency, maybe being 10-6, 11-5-ish next year, but they're still going to be tops NFC West. We'll see, although we'll see what Arizona can do. I think the 49ers have fallen off for now, which they've lost a couple of players due to retirement. I'll get to that in a minute. Back to LaShawn McCoy, though. It's crazy. Like I said, I kind of mentioned how that, it was good, obviously, for the Bills, and we'll see what they do with the rest of their money. But for the Eagles, I just don't get why they're getting rid of him. I don't understand that, really. Now you're certainly going to have to get a running back, and I think that's who they're going to look for in the draft or even in free agency, but I just do not understand the Eagles letting LaShawn McCoy go. Not good at all. Huge for the Cowboys, if you ask me. Brandon Marshall, get to that. Going to the Jets, that's huge. That's huge for Geno Smith. Having Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, 2 experienced wide receivers on the outside that have played with 2 elite quarterbacks prior to coming there, so they can teach him some things, hopefully, as long as they want to mend together. And we'll see with the new coach coming along if they can really mend. The point with that team, though, is, like I said, it's that backfield. It's the running back and it's the quarterback. Who are they going to have in the backfield running the ball, and who are they going to have throwing the ball? Defense is always going to be there, and it just seems like for the Jets, obviously, as well. They're always going to have some pretty, top 15, 20 defense, which that's all you need. You got to have some points, though, especially this day and age in the NFL. You got to score. Randall Cobb, I did kind of talk about that. Definitely good for the Packers. They obviously seeing what they had at the end of last season, wanting to bring that back for the Pack. Great idea. But back to and now I will get to that NFC West after talking about Marshawn Lynch a second ago. The other team that I think can rival them if Carson Palmer is healthy. But how about this, Peyton Manning too? Another guy that's now taken a restructured pay cut this year. Free up about $7 million. How about 7.125 if you want to be exact in cap space this coming season? Yeah, that's crazy. He's freed up a little over $7 million for the Arizona Cardinals to make more moves, which some guys probably will leave in free agency. I know they have the safety maybe test in free agency, but for the most part, they got most of that cast coming back. And with the coach that really started to get them to go in the right direction last year, even when they lost all their players, but all their I think I was playing quarterback for them last year at the end of the season, and you saw that they were still winning games to win to get into the playoffs as they needed. So he goes and literally cuts his contract in half, which I wish Peyton would have done, 19 to like 9.5. Carson Palmer goes from $14.5 million this coming year. I was going to make because he got that big deal when he went out to Arizona. But anyway, goes from $14.5 million to about 7.3, about right around $7.375 million. That's huge. That's a lot of money they can spend now. So huge, as I just said multiple times, for the Arizona Cardinals and what they could do next year. And we'll see what they do as free agency literally is about to begin in a little over 24 hours. And another name that you're going to see in free agency now most likely is Andre Johnson, where all these years before he's kind of wanting to slowly get out of Houston. Well, now Houston finally says, okay, we'll let you go. I mean, he's like, oh, finally you're going to let me go. Okay. So now he's able to seek a trade, although he's due to make like $10, $12 million next year. So it's going to be hard to get rid of the poor guy. But certainly he's going to find a new team. He's going to be out there. It's going to be an open market. It's going to be one of those 10% type things like, wow, I can't believe Andre Johnson's still in Houston if he's still in Houston next year. There's quite a few teams that he can land with. Seahawks, Patriots, Broncos even, because of Julius Thomas. They can't sign Julius Thomas. That's the thing. And that's the big key word as all these older guys, as they leave these teams, want to find a championship caliber team. So look for even the Falcons, Colts, the Chiefs, Seahawks, Patriots, Broncos. I'm sure, obviously, those first couple of teams, the Seahawks, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Colts. Look for those teams, maybe even the Chiefs, because the Chiefs have to free up some cap space. They've got to let Dwayne Bowe most likely go. They're going to have to let him go. He's due to make a lot of money next year. He hasn't been producing, so he could go there. And Andre Johnson isn't going to be asking for the $10, $12 million he was due to make. He'll probably get that $5, $6, $7 million range. So the Seahawks could potentially get him, although the Seahawks will certainly be in line to want to get Julius Thomas, I know, if the Broncos don't want to match anything. Same with the Patriots. They want a big outside key, big guy to go to for Tom Brady, and especially an experienced guy like Andre Johnson that still has size, speed, athleticism still at his age, and knowledge. Of course, the Broncos, like I said, if they don't get Julius back. Colts, they have quite a little bit of money to play with this year. Depends on what they want to do in free agency. They could bring someone in for Andrew Luck, an older guy. Same with the Falcons. They'll have plenty of money to spend, and the Chiefs as well if they let Dwayne Bowe go. Although, the Chiefs, actually, I'll get to that in a second. That's late breaking news as of yesterday. Cross the Chiefs out, because guess what? They got a new wide receiver in KC. And I'm sure they're pretty happy about it. Probably maybe even a little happier than Andre Johnson because he's younger. Although I had one injury, still very young, very athletic, coming off a great season. Get to this guy in just a second. We'll get to him right now. That's Jeremy Maclin. You can go ahead and count him in. The Eagles went ahead and let him go, too. That's why the Eagles, I just don't know what they're doing here in free agency in this market. There's subtraction and addition back and forth because they're getting some players, too, although they're letting some players go. Anyway, KC, Kansas City Chiefs, they've signed Jeremy Maclin to a pretty decent-sized deal. And I know he'll reunite with Andy Reid, which just certainly I know he's happy about, being the fact that Andy Reid left there a couple years ago, and he had a great year with Andy Reid's last year there. Then he had an injury, then he came back last year in great form. The one candidate, like I said, that's going to be on the go most likely in Chiefs land that's going to be cut is going to be Dwayne Bowe. $14 million he's due next year, so You can see him most likely getting the axe. Another team that I was going to mention that Andre Johnson could be going to now because Torrey Smith isn't coming back to the Baltimore Ravens. So you could see Andre Johnson land at the Baltimore Ravens. So I'll go ahead and call that right now. Here's another new call since I need to call something this week. Andre Johnson certainly is going to land at either and I know it's 4 teams, but it's going to be the Seahawks, the Patriots, the Broncos, or it's going to be the Ravens. I know the Colts and the Falcons could be in there, but it's not. It's going to be the Seahawks, the Patriots, the Broncos, or the Ravens. It's the Ravens now, as I said. Torrey Smith late last night posted it in a tweet or online. I forgot what it was. He's not coming back. He said, "Hey, thanks for my time here. Loves them all, but hey, he's not. He found out he wasn't coming back. Here's some more people who aren't coming back. Patrick Willis planning on retiring. He announced that yesterday that he's going to retire. Patrick Willis, he's coming off the toe injury that he's had that's been nagging him. He said, I guess for the last 3 to 5 years. Said he's even got 5 to 6 years left in him, but he said and literally even had no indication at the time when he said he was coming back after the end of the injury, and he was like, okay, I just got to heal. He said, hey, I've got 5 or 6 years left in my body. When I come back, I'll be bigger and better than I was. I guess not so fast. Supposedly today, at some point in time, he's going to retire. I'm sure sometime this afternoon. And a teammate, that's the reason why I said the 49ers, you can just count that they lost 2 big players on the defense, especially in that front 7 where they held such a superior, I should say, supremacy in the NFL. I mean, they were top 5 in the NFL, their front 7 was. Now, their back 4, they were pretty decent, but they were never that great. Their front 7, top 5 in the NFL. When they made the Super Bowl run, they were top 2 or 3 in the NFL. Those 3 linebackers, Alden Smith, I'm not going to get them to Willis, they were in the front 7. Good. Great. Anyway, now Justin Smith going to retire as well today. So Justin Smith, and why don't they just have a jointly ready to see if that happens. If so, you can count with Harbaugh leaving, even though they weren't very happy together. The upper staff, the upper management, I guess I should say, and the coaching staff were just having fights and fits and just didn't see eye to eye. Don't know why. 3 straight NFC Championship games. That's pretty good. Anyway, with him leaving, new coach coming in, these guys leaving, you can see the 49ers next year being maybe 8-8 at best. And that's why I said it'll be the Seahawks and the Cardinals fighting out for that 10-6, 11-5 spot, I'd bet. More news. How about Brian Hoyer? I talked about earlier how in the New York Jets quarterback Geno Smith is going to have a little competition. Maybe it's Ryan Mallett, because that's great news. My man Ryan Mallett, who I thought and wish he would have gotten a starting position earlier than he has, put up great numbers in the SEC. Oh yeah, the SEC has the best defense. Remember, they have more players drafted than any other. Yada 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 yada. I mean, threw for 3,500 about on average his last 2 years here at Arkansas. Threw for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, and about 10 picks. That's pretty good. Anyway, set behind Brady. Well, now it looks like another person that sat behind Brady for 3 years, just like Mallett did, going to be fighting for that starting position down in Houston. That's Brian Hoyer. Yeah, Brian Hoyer is looking to sign with the Houston Texans, although it looks like the New York Jets will offer him a contract as well. We'll see who he sides with, most likely leaning toward the Texans. But my man, at least Ryan Mallett, did get signed a 2-year contract yesterday, which I was great and I was going to be happy to talk about until I found out just a bit later on, late last night, that Hoyer was looking to lean to sign with them. I'm like, man. But anyway, Mallett yesterday and early yesterday actually signed a 2-year, $7 million contract with the Houston Texans, which I talked about a month ago on one of my previous episodes, how they were looking to bring him back. They're happy with his progress last year, especially his couple starts, and unfortunately he got injured. Even fought through the game, he got injured and played through it, a lot of it. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I can't wait, really. Hopefully Mallett gets a starting nod there, but it's funny to see 2 former Brady backups, 2 former backups of Brady. That's just awesome for 3 years apiece. Most likely going to be fighting it out down in Houston for the starting position at quarterback. And the Raiders, they went ahead and said, hey, let's spend some money. Although he is one of the top centers out there on the free agency market, they went ahead and signed Rodney Hudson, if you heard of this guy. I hadn't actually heard of him, but I know now that he is one of the top centers in the league, and he signed with the Oakland Raiders. 5-year deal, $44.5 million. So there you go, Oakland. There goes some of your money. Let's hopefully see that it does honestly pan out. I'm sure it probably will. They need an offensive lineman. Although they haven't had the best of luck in past years with linemen, sometimes just haven't, like a lot of positions, haven't panned out in Oakland. as I always call the team of death when Darren McFadden went there. Of course, my beloved Arkansas Razorbacks, my beloved Darren McFadden. As soon as I saw that, when he was drafted by Oakland, oh man. Anyway, how about the NFL? They sent out the NFL League sent out a letter to all 32 teams. They're about tired of this. Hey, we got a deal before the league begins its free agency deal. They're not supposed to come out with these deals until the deals can officially be done, which is usually, like I said, starts tomorrow at 4 p.m. So whenever free agency debt, whatever, you get my point. They're not supposed to start these deals till then. So all the time when you're coming out, like you've heard all of the Ndamukong Suh deal, 6 years, $114 million, or I shouldn't say Carson Palmer, the Randall Cobb deal, 4 year, $40 million, or LaShawn McCoy, or all these different deals. They're not supposed to come out and release this. Same with, I guess, really, even these rumors, because they are rumors, that Byron Maxwell and Frank Gore are going to sign with the Eagles. Or the Jeremy Maclin deal to the Chiefs. They're tired of these coming out early, saying, hey, here's what the deal's going to be, and these things leaking. So they sent a letter out in the memo saying, we've about had it, let's clean that act up, and we'll see what they do anyway. I don't think much will be done, but maybe so. Maybe maybe teams will start getting fined, and I'm sure if they start taking away draft picks or something along those lines, maybe when they do that, they will. But if they just find the team X amount of dollar signs, they're going to keep doing this. They don't care. Okay, we want to get these deals done, man. We want to make sure we get these guys, and that's how you get it done. You got to get in there early. One last guy to talk about, because down here in Big D, they were obviously hoping if they couldn't get a deal done with DeMarco Murray, they were going to sign Mark Ingram, or they were looking to sign Mark Ingram. That was the rumor, being he was going to be a lot cheaper because he signed a 4-year, $16 million deal with the Saints to stay with the Saints. So he'll be staying in New Orleans for the next 4 years, and that's the thing, $4 million a year. DeMarco, that's the thing. They were talking down here that, hey, DeMarco, we'll give you, I think it was like 6, maybe a little over 6 a year, right? 6 point whatever, 1.25, whatever, 2.5. But hey, there's a team out there offering you 7.8. If you want to take the 7.8, good. Well, hey, 6.1. We're sitting here with 6.125. Hey, great, good job. We love you. We'll do what we can for you. Thanks for your time here. But that's the point. So the rumor is he's looking for obviously 7, 8, 9 million, maybe even 10 million a year, because there might be a team out there willing to give him that. Dallas Cowboys are only willing to give him around 6 million at most, somewhere right around that range, because they need other needs as well. If they weren't going to sign him, they were going to go ahead and even save a little money and get maybe Mark Ingram. That was one of the guys they were looking at to fill in that role here, because he's kind of the same type back. One of the former coaches that he was with, I think either with the Saints or maybe it was even, I think it was with the Saints. Now is with the Cowboys coaching staff. So there was familiarity there. So not going to happen now. He's going to stay with the Saints. And Chris Johnson, did you hear this news? Shot in the shoulder in Orlando, and that's not okay. That's crazy enough because he's out there in the free agent market Sunday morning in Orlando. Sunday at about 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, so if you were up around then. But a vehicle pulled up beside the Johnson vehicle, the vehicle that they were in. There's a vehicle that pulled up beside him at a red light and just opened fire. Johnson is okay. He was, like I said, shot in the shoulder, but the driver, unfortunately, he passed away. He died. I don't know if it was on the scene. I couldn't find an article if it, clear enough it said that he died on the scene or at the hospital. But yeah, the driver died. There was another passenger as well. He was shot. He was in the same condition as Johnson, which was stable. They were fine, both fine, going to be okay. But crazy news out there, just these guns, which I hate. The fact that forever ago it was put in our Constitution that it's okay to right to bear arms, and that people these days don't understand, and it's gone. It's as my dad always said, the cat's out of the bag. It's too gone past the foreclusion that we can even do anything about it. But that was to protect us from other countries like invading us, so we could all be prepared and ready if someone came in. Or yes, even back then, because people would maybe come in and try to take your property or land because there weren't cops patrolling all over the place. Now there's, what I mean? There's no really need for them, and hasn't been for hundreds of years. Well, I should say hundreds, but over 100. So I know not 200, 300, 400, but you get my point. But over 100 years now, there's been no point really to carry a gun around. And now that the fact that they're out there like they are, everyone can get shot at any time. I'm not trying to be just narcissist about it. It's crazy, but it is uncomfortable at times. I don't like it. I wish that there weren't guns the way they are, especially all these AKs and M5s, all the different assault rifles. What's the point of having an assault rifle? Shotguns I can understand are hunting guns, rifles. maybe even handguns, the right to bear arms, maybe like smaller handguns. But these massive guns that people are carrying around and get automatic weapons that they even turn them into, of course, there's semi-automatics as well. It's just, as my dad used to say when I'd watch wrestling all the time, or wrestling as he'd call it bogosity. And it is bogosity that people can carry around the guns that they get to carry around. It's bogosity. I'm sorry, it is. And you know it is. If our ancestors, which I know they obviously, for the most part, compared their smartest person to our smartest person, although they did have people like Benjamin Franklin, kind of invented a lot of stuff for us. Go look them up. Anyway, they would laugh at us. They go, do you think that's your right to bear arms now? Whoa, y'all have kind of taken it to the extreme, wouldn't you say? Hey, on deck, NBA though. My gosh. Has Russell Westbrook been going off for, is that to say the least? 5 of his last 6 games, he's only had a triple-double. 4 straight. 4 straight. He was trying to get 5 straight. Didn't do it. And don't forget, he did have surgery last week. He had 3 straight. Got kneed in the side of the head with like 2.5 seconds left by his own. Kicked in that bone right there. Had surgery. Came back 5 days later. Had another triple-double. His first game back. And then he broke a streak only by having 43 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Oh, my. And then he has another one the next night to make it 5 out of 6. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 17 assists, 4 steals. So 7th of the season. The 7th of the season, don't forget Michael Jordan had 7 straight. Because that 4 in a row he had, that was the first time that anyone's done 4 straight triple-doubles since Michael. Oh, MJ, his royal airness, his airness. Jordan himself did it 7 straight times. 7 games in a row. Imagine 7 straight games with a triple-double. People would just be going crazy right now. They're going crazy enough with 4. Anyway, he's got 7 on the season. Michael Westbrook, great year. Now he's obviously put his name up there in the MVP conversation with Stephen Curry. And Steph, of course, up there at the top, most likely going to take it still. But great season from both these guys. And when the guards weren't really around in the 2000s, really. You know, if you think about it, there weren't that many guards like there are now. It was more of the forwards and big men. I shouldn't say big men, but that 4 position that was just kind of a swing position, like a Garnett or a Tim Duncan. They not a true 4 of the old, although somewhat 4 of the old, but could shoot, could rebound, could pass, could do all those things. But anyway, there was a 3 and the 4s that took over there for a while, and even some 5s. But the 1 and the 2s were really non-existent. There was, yes, Iverson and, of course, Kobe Bryant and a couple others, but now guards are really starting to take back over the league, and it's fun to see because it just adds a lot more points again the way it used to be. A lot of good shooting in the league, although talking about good shooting, not so much from LeBron James, as it was almost maybe a preview of the Eastern Conference Finals as the Hawks and the Cavs squared off again. This time the Hawks won again, beating the Cavs 106-97. James was 5 of 13 from the floor. I just spoke of him last week, how he had missed 28 shots in a game, free throws and shots from the field. Only had 18 points in this one. Hawks kind of got up early, 36 points in the first quarter, although the Cavs came back and made it pretty close at halftime. It really made it a really close game throughout, as in they scored 36 in the third quarter. But they couldn't do anything in the fourth. LeBron, once again, looking to dish off, not take over, as you've seen him every once in a while take over. As I did give him compliments, it seems like 2 or 3 shows ago, I was giving him compliments about him taking over finally in a game. Doesn't take over, doesn't do what he needs to do. I'm sorry, LeBron, you're the best player on the court. You're the best player in the league. You need to take over. You're the best player in the world. You need to take over when it's time to take over. And maybe he's scared. Maybe he's like, oh, if I fail, if I do take all the shots, if I do try to take over and I don't succeed, we lose still. I really don't want all that blame. I really don't want all the criticism then. I don't know. LeBron, take over. I don't get it. And the Cavs, I should say, with the Hawks, they're real. The Hawks are the real deal, at least as far as what the regular season shows. And I'm not saying just their record, winning like 42 of their last 48 games or something like that. I'm talking about, check this out, against playoff teams, current playoff teams this season. They're an NBA best 26-8. An NBA best 26-8 against playoff teams. That's saying something. That's not just like, oh, we're 500 against playoff teams, or even right over. We're the NBA best against playoff teams, the best record against current NBA playoff teams, which is about to be the playoffs. So you might as well call it what it is. I'm honestly excited about this year's playoffs from one of the first, just because I'm excited to see what each conference is going to hold. Last couple of years, honestly, I'm sorry, you knew the Heat were coming out of the East. It was a foregone conclusion. Maybe it was going to be a good series, which some of them did provide to be that, but you knew the Heat were coming out. This year, you don't know if, well, now it's funny because it's where LeBron goes, because wherever LeBron goes, other players tend to go. So we'll see what the Cavs do this year in the playoffs, and I hope the Hawks make the Eastern Conference Finals as well. On deck. Had to say it like that time. NCAA basketball, Kentucky, wow, improves to 31-0. And what a Saturday it was. Did you see all the close games we had? Did you watch all those games? It felt like the NCAA March Madness first weekend, first couple days in weekend, I guess, in one day. There were 6 games that came down to the last shot. 6 games that came down to the last shot on Conference Saturday. Conference Showdown Saturday, as I want to go ahead and conference. Because there were a couple games that came down to the conference title, but 6 games came down to the final seconds and the final shot. Huge, crazy Saturday. Of course, Duke goes over UNC, sweeps them on the year. But let me get through these games real quick. Number 16, Louisville drops a 15-footer with 2.5 seconds left to beat number 2, Virginia, 59-57. Number 15, Oklahoma, they scored on a tip-in with 0.2 seconds left to edge number 9, Kansas, 75-73. And hint, these aren't just like non-ranked teams that are like, oh, I found these. No, these are all mostly ranked teams. How about number 8, Wichita State, being upset by Illinois State in the Missouri Valley Conference semifinals, 65-62. Wichita State had a 3-point shot at the buzzer to tie the game. They missed it. Another ranked team here. How about Belmont upsetting number 25 Murray State? They hit a 3 with 3.2 seconds left to win the the Ohio Valley Conference Championship, 88-87. They didn't go for the 2, they went for the 3 and won it, or they got it and they won it. My boys, the Razorbacks, heartbreaker. Up 3 multiple times with a minute left, right around a minute left. Both times, LSU coming back to tie. Then LSU with the last second shot, they get it. Literally, the ball leaves the guy's hand with like 0.5 seconds left. No time left when it goes right through the net. LSU upsets Arkansas, number 18 Arkansas, 81-78. Look at, did you hear that? 5 straight amazing games with last-second shots. And let's get to the 6th one. Sorry, finally we don't have a ranked team involved. But it's a classic one. Because guess what? It was for a regular season title on the line. Dartmouth, that's right. They put a missed shot back in the final second. No time left on this one. They beat Yale 59-58. And Yale would have clinched an Ivy League title outright. Well, not so fast, my friend, of course, as Lee Corso would say. 6 games, all coming down to the final seconds, if not the very last shot. Very, very, very great Saturday for college basketball. If you missed it, I am very sorry for you. Go back and watch it. You can see some of these highlights, of course, on ESPN, any of the other outlets. Whew, nothing, though, as reliving the games, especially the ones I had to watch, like the Razorbacks, watching that heart-thrilling, heart-pounding, nonstop to the very last second, and your team loses. Oh, those are the worst. Did you hear about the news up at Syracuse? Jim Boeheim. Not too long ago, I was looking at the 1,000-win list, and I was like, oh, Jim Boeheim, he had like over 900 wins. You're like, well, he's about to join Krzyzewski, and maybe they can play a game. Oh, it'll be the first time ever 2 1,000-win coaches would face off against each other. It'd be happening, certainly here in the next year or two. And, once again, not so fast, my friend, because the NCAA, of course, had this investigation ongoing with Syracuse and took away 12 scholarships, suspended Jim Boeheim for 9 games, and ordered that 108 of those wins to be vacated. Oh, poor man. Of course, multiple reasons, just like any other investigation that anyone ever does, what you see or think would happen. Normal violations weren't reported by Syracuse, pretty much snitched by people at Syracuse as far as back in 2001. But academic misconducts are pretty much grade-wise stuff, extra benefits, drug failure to follow up the drug testing policy, impermissible booster activity, other violations, of course, academic assistance and services, Boeheim's failure to promote an atmosphere of compliance and monitor his staff, and the school's lack of control over its athletic program. So pretty much the huge. Poor Jim. And he came out and said he's obviously extremely sorry. yeah, it's bad for Syracuse. They've really been falling off too lately. This isn't going to help so good. Yeah, it really could put Syracuse in a hole, and I'm sure he's going to hate that. He really built Syracuse up. They've kind of fallen off of the last year or two, and really with this, and I think that was why, because a lot of this was about to hit them. A lot of guys weren't wanting to play there because they thought maybe this was going to hit faster. Really, you might see. I mean, it's quite crazy to think. I mean, it's like Arkansas. I mean, my beloved Razorbacks. They were in the '90s. If you remember, if you're old enough and you're listening, the '70s and '80s and '90s. Up in the '90s, remember they had always been in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, every year they went to 3 Final Fours in 5 years, or 6 years. I think it was 5 years. They went 90. Yeah, they went 90, 93, 94. They went 90, 91 season, 93, 94, 94, 95. 93, 94, 94, 95. That was back-to-back championship games. Should have won both of them. Beat Duke in the first one. Runner-up in the next one. They were favored against UCLA. It would have been great to beat pretty much 2 of the top college basketball, teams of all time. I almost want to say franchises, but literally most want to call them franchises, along with maybe Kansas and North Carolina with college basketball. Those are the top 4. Anyway, and that point being, on all those games, they'd always show most wins ever by an NCAA basketball program, and we would always be in the top 10. I remember they'd have Michigan. I mean, here's another one, Michigan. What happened to them? And they even kind of made a rising over the past couple of years, and boy, they've just fallen off to nowhere again. But Michigan was like around 10th, and I remember, anyway, Arkansas was right around, it seemed like 5 to 7, somewhere in that range, and most wins all time. I think we're like 7th. Well, I don't know where we are now. So it's just kind of like Syracuse. You could see them as in being the next, almost like Arkansas is, and they had that great run for a while. And that really, Arkansas had a really great run because they, of course, really in the 70s, they had a Final Four team, and they were really good in the 80s. They had Sutton come along and really build them up. And then, of course, Nolan came along, Richardson, Hall of Famer in his own right. We'll see what happens with Syracuse over the next few years. They are certainly on deck, and what happens to them. On deck, too. Whew, cannot wait for this NCAA conference tournament. Some of them are ongoing and have finished, and we have people in the tournament as we speak right now. But we'll clear up that and more next week, certainly. Conference tournaments. Whew, I can't wait. The first week of the NCAA tournament. Of course, the brackets itself, the bracketology, breaking that down. We'll break all that down as the conference tournaments is really kick off in the next couple of days. And I can't wait for the SEC tournament. Hopefully my Hogs can really make some dividends. Really losing, like I said, to Arkansas. I'm sure that hurt them, or I should say losing to LSU on senior night, their last game at Fayetteville for the season, and really, obviously, for those seniors. But maybe they can make it up, get back, maybe beat Kentucky. That's the thing. We'll see what Kentucky, can they make the run and go ahead and win out the SEC tournament? Certainly would be the number 1 overall seed, and we'll see what they do. Oh, I am so ready for March Madness. Boy, it is upon us. And really breaking that down, here's the last thing for NCAA, and it's getting to the end of this, and it's great to see a Razorback on it. The Wooden Award finalist. Anyone know of Frank Kaminsky? Well, I've seen him and heard of him this year, but hey, he's the top of the list of Wisconsin. He's a front runner by most accounts. Jalil Okafor, of course, everyone's heard of him. That's Duke's freshman superstar. He's probably number 2 on the list, most likely, by most accounts. Well, he's just one of 3 underclassmen. Jalil is. Then we got D'Angelo Russell of Ohio State and Bobby Portis of Arkansas. They're the other 2 underclassmen. And I won't really reel off all the rest of them, but I did want to mention, of course, those underclassmen and who most likely looks to win. And, of course, this guy. How about this? Northern Iowa senior Seth Tuttle, who wasn't even nominated on the Wooden Award midseason top 25. They break it down from, I forgot what the list started at. Say it starts at 100, then they do 50, then they do 25, and, of course, down to 15, and then down to the final 5 that are announced like sometime during the NCAA tournament. But he didn't even make the top 25, but yet he made the top 15. So that's cool. That doesn't happen hardly ever, but hey, congrats. There you go, especially Northern Iowa. Seth Tuttle, I hope you win it. No, it's likely won't. And trouble in Dallas, I have to get to this. Yu Darvish, man, had 12 pitches in 1 inning of work in his first spring appearance earlier this, last week, about a week ago. Had an MRI on Friday. And, of course, revealed about the worst possible news. More drama in Dallas, just all over. Basketball team has trouble. They don't know what's going on. I mean, literally, Amari, Rajon Rondo, that whole mix-in. They just can't get it to work yet. When exactly, of course, Amari's going to be playing. Then you've got, on the football side, what's up with this Dez Bryant video? I mean, this huge thing came out a week ago that it was going to be released, and really nothing since then. And what are the Cowboys going to do with DeMarco Murray? And really, even with Dez Bryant, well, they franchised Dez just to get him for a year so he can go ahead and just get that solidified, but are they going to re-sign DeMarco? And now to the baseball team. I mean, they just can't escape trouble in Dallas. It doesn't look like Yu Darvish may be playing this year, as he has partially torn ligaments in addition to inflammation in his right elbow and might need Tommy John surgery. Of course, is going to be getting double and triple evaluated for this. Not good news, though, in Dallas. People are crying. You can just hear them crying right now. I think it's literally over the past month. The other day, it was finally sunny again, and they showed when I watched the weather that the last day that it was a partly sunny to mostly sunny day, pretty much the last day the sun was out, was 2 weeks prior to that. It was like February the 17th or 18th, and this was like March the 2nd or 3rd or 4th, even 5th. I don't know what day it was when I was watching the news. I think it was like the 4th, 5th, or 6th, somewhere in there. And that was the first day it was pretty much sunny in 2 to 3 weeks. And boy, it shows. I mean, people are they were so happy toward the end of that football season. The Cowboys making the playoffs, looking good. Dallas Mavericks making trades and looking to maybe, hopefully, and that was the word and rumor down here and had been the whole time, that they were going to pick up Amari. Baseball season, that was just hey, happy to have baseball, though. New coach, this, that, and the other. They didn't know what to expect this year from the baseball team. Dallas Stars actually, even on this, that's the one thing. I guess it's still going good. They're winning all these last-second games, but man, trouble down here in Dallas, although it looked so bright just a couple of months ago. Stories of the week, boy. Got some great ones. Got to talk about Rory McIlroy. Did you see this? Him launch his club, something I would do, although I may have launched one in the water, and I know I did once on accident. It was the last time I threw a club. I'll never forget this, because I threw it in a creek and had to go fish it out because it was my driver, and it wasn't to the point where I was like, oh, that's gone. I was like, I can still get that. What am I doing? I need to go get that. Last time I threw it. And I was like him. You're good at it? Boy, you launch it. I can launch a club 30, 40, 50, 60 yards easy. Sometimes it would go further than where I hit the ball. Well, Rory did it himself. Going over the water, 220-yard approach on a par 5. His second shot on the 8th hole, well, it didn't quite make across the water. Really didn't hit a great shot at all. And he immediately didn't even think about it. And that's what happens. You don't think about it. You just do it. Launched his club. See ya. Yeah, threw it about 40 to 50 yards at least. It was estimated he threw it maybe even 60 or 70. I mean, he launched it. It's a great throw. Don't know if you see it. You can find it on YouTube. Don't see that very often, especially from the number one player in the world. Let's talk about Tiger Woods cussing. Hey, don't think he ever threw a club like that. Ever. Ronda Rousey, did you hear her title defense? 14 seconds in the win. Fastest ever title defense. I think it tied the fastest ever 14 seconds in UFC history. Whew. It was a crazy start, too. Look that up. The girl approached that she was fighting, just ran up on her. Bulled her. She did like a somersault. It was weird. She like somersaulted, and Rousey somersaulted kind of like back over her, and then got her arm in some weird. It was crazy. It was fast, weird 14 seconds, and got her arm. Something you don't want to do probably when someone's that good. Don't want to bull rush them like that. Then she also came out and said pretty much right after that, because how good she is. Pretty much said I'll never fight a man. Because she also, and that's a good point. I'm glad she said that. Her main point was I don't never want to condone the fact that it's okay for a man to punch a woman. Because, next thing you know, if this, that goes on, next thing you know, 10, 15 years down the line, we have men fighting women, and then it's okay. Oh, then it's the next thing you know, it's okay. Like guns, it's like okay to have guns the way it is. It's okay to maybe hit a woman if it's let's go to the judge and he'll see if it was okay. I don't know, but I'm just glad that she stands up for that, because it is never okay, and that was good. Although she could beat some men, certainly. I'm just glad that won't happen. That's good to see that. And how about the fight? Here is the fight of the century. No, not Ronda Rousey. No. I teased this one. And one you may never get to see. I've tried to find the video. I still can't find it. Maybe because it's Southern versus Texas Southern. And it was for the Southwest Conference women's basketball or regular season title. Yeah, they were fighting on Saturday night. Man, it was a little fight, a little shindig. Well, it was a normal game. It was 51-49, about 12 minutes left to go in the second half. The report says the brawl, as they're now calling it, took place right after Texas Southern's, her name's Miracle Davis. Well, Miracle took a charge. Well, it's a miracle that I guess that maybe someone didn't get hurt. She took a charge. Next thing you know, players, cheerleaders, because it was right at the foul line, and this was a small gymnasium, is kind of what I've read through most reports. So the charge went to the cheerleaders. It had kind of been ongoing to it. I've kind of learned to figure out that this had been as in throughout the game. It'd been talking trash. It'd been building up. You could just tell the animosity it was bound to happen, point being. Someone took a hard charge. Next thing you know, everyone's involved. Players, cheerleaders, fans were even reportedly involved in this. Finally, security rushed in on the court and somehow saved the day. And here's what the funny thing is. The league's official Twitter feed, the officials at the game, since it was such a big brawl and so many people a couple people actually hurt, they ruled the game a double forfeit. A double forfeit. They called at the end of the game, the league's official Twitter feed read that'll end at that 51-49 tie that it was right at the time of that foul, the charge. It'll end 51-49. Southern was leading. Southern will win. And they will share the regular season title because they both have records of 16-2 in the conference. Now, if you remember, let's go back to, how about Texas Southern? We just, talked about the women. Let's go back to the men's side. Do you remember back late last year? What's late when I say the very last week of December, so not too long ago, a little over 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. Well, Texas Southern had a great week of basketball. They upset Kansas State, and they upset number 25 Michigan State, back when Michigan State was somehow still ranked. Well, in about 8 days span, they beat both those teams. Now, do you remember how they beat Kansas State? I forgot all about this. So I was like, oh, yeah, and I had to tell you about it. Let me tell you how they beat Kansas State. They already beat Michigan State. Now they're playing Kansas State. And let me tell you about, they were 1-8 entering the game against Michigan State. They were 1-8 entering the game against Michigan State, so 2-8 entering the game against Kansas State. Here's how they win. Kansas State's up 56-52 with 3.8 seconds left. Yes, you heard me correct. Kansas State's up 56-52 with 3.8 seconds left. Now, how does Texas Southern pull this miracle off? Wink, wink, miracle. Here's how it happened. Kansas State fouled Texas Southern, Tawny Collier, on a three-point shot with 3.8 seconds left. Collier made his first 2 free throws, then missed the third perfectly, allowing the Tigers to get the putback and tie the game. Absolutely, and you can find this on YouTube, wherever. Absolute perfection of a play that fails about 99% of the time. Look that up. Makes his first 2 free throws, then gets the bounce back miss on the second one and puts it back. Ties the game 56-56. This gives K-State a chance to inbound the ball with 0.9 seconds remaining to throw up a desperation heave to avoid overtime. If they could even do that, or just get it to overtime. Be good at this point. However, the Wildcats threw the ball out of bounds. Wasn't touched. Just threw the ball out of bounds. They threw it over their guy's head, out of bounds, thus giving the ball right back underneath the basket right there where he threw it out of bounds to Texas Southern. Texas Southern's Jason Carter got the inbound pass, scored, wide open. Just Kansas State's, I guess, befuddled at the time. They are just, heads are in their butts. They have no idea what's going on. Dude's wide open. You can, look this up. Jason Carter's wide open underneath the basket. Inbound pass right to him, literally just puts it right up above the rim. Boom, scores. Game over. If you even look at it, what's funny, because it's at K-State, the Kansas State scorekeeper guy, time guy, you could tell even when you watch it, he starts the clock a little bit late. And the refs even go back and make sure that how they do. Let me go back to make sure he still would have gotten that off in time. And he does, luckily. They still do that. But it's funny, even the Kansas State time guy didn't even get the time started in time. Still, you're down 56-52 with 3.8 seconds left. Your percentages of winning are literally, as in that the double free throw, miss the third, make the putback. That happens about what, 99% of the time? Do you get my point? Crazy ending to one of the craziest weeks in sports we've had this year. Oh, I'm so ready, though, for the next week in football, the next week in free agent signing, also the next week in college basketball. What's going to happen with all these conference tournaments? Is Kentucky going to stay undefeated? Who's going to be the number 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. seeds in the NCAA tournament? Who's going to be in the play-in games? Oh, I'm so excited. Hopefully we'll have a great weekend of conference tournaments. Hopefully we'll have a great week for your NFL teams, and they'll sign the players that you want them to sign. Until then, I'll keep you updated on all of this and much, much more. Don't forget to follow me at Joshua A. Smith 7 That's right, at Joshua A. Smith 7. That's on Twitter. Of course, joshsmithsports.com. That's where you'll find this blog on deck. And until next week, NFL, all you NFL teams, all you teams in the college basketball, you're on deck yourselves. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. I'm Josh Smith. Until then.